Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, we're going to start the funeral services of Louis Jacobson. Rabbi Shlomo Tenenbaum from the Ark will be officiating. And for those of you who are live streaming, for AJ, Brian Ali, and for Sarah and Moshe, you should know that there's a minyan here. And the rabbi will begin with the ceremony of Kriya. So if you could do Kriya by yourself, and Sammy's here with his wife Michal, representing the family. We're going to ask the gentleman from the cemetery, while the rabbi begins the ceremony, to lower Louis's casket, and then we'll begin. For the people that are here, please take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. What's the problem? It's okay. That's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay. Page here. Okay. So AJ, I'm guessing said Baruch Dayan Emes. We'll start with a couple Kapitel Tehillim. Kapitel Aleph. Ashrei Isha Sher Lo Holach Ba'atas Rishoyim Uvederach Chatoyim Lo Omad. Over Moshe Leitzim LeYoshav, Kim B'Teiras Adonai Chefto, Saraso Yaga, Yoimon B'Layla, Vaya Ka'etz Shosu Al Palgemayim, Asher Pirio Yitain Be'ito Be'aleu Lo Yibol, Kol Asher Yaza Yatzliach, Lo Ken HaRashoyim Kim Kamoit Asher Tidfana Ruach, Al Ken Lo Yokum Rashoyim B'Mishpat V'Chatoyim B'Adas Tzadikim Ki Yodea Adonai Derech Tzadikim V'Derech Rashoyim Toived. You know, when we often say Kapitel Aleph by Levaya, and so you read Loholach Batzas B'Shoyim, Moshe Leitzim LeYoshav, and by a lot of people it's not exactly accurate, but by Louis, he was, we all know, Ish Tzanuah Ma'od, and he really was never somebody that was part of a Moshe Leitzim in any way. He was, one of the unique midos. The Mizmor Chav Gimel, Mizmor LeDavid Adonai Roi Lo Echsar Binos Deshi Yarbitzeni Amei Menuchos Yina Aleini Nafshi Yeshoyve Yancheni B'Magle Tzedek L'man Shemo Gam Ki Elech V'Getz Halmavas Lo Irara Ki Ata Imadi Shivtecho Mishantecha Hemi Yinachamuni Tarach Lefonai Shulchan Neged Sorarai Di Shanta V'Shemen Roshi Koisi Rivea Ach Toy V'Chesed Yurdufoni Kol Yimei Chayev V'Shavti V'Es Adonai Le'orach Yomim. Okay, we're here today to say goodbye to Eliezer Shimshon ben Tzvi Chaim. We have a number of people who we're going to share a few words. I'm going to ask maybe family to speak first. So, if I don't know, if AJ or his sister and, or Brian Elise, let's have them say a few words first. And then we also have Rabbi Soloveitchik is with us here at the cemetery, and Rabbi Abramson has also joined us. Okay, but let's start with the family. I
wanted to talk about, in regards to name, I always wondered how our parents chose the name for their children. So in our family, it was always the name of a grandparent, a great-grandparent, and it was passed on. So Louis's name, Eliezer Shimshon, Eliezer is from my father's father, Rabbi Eliezer Jacobson, and his middle name was Shimshon, and that was from my mother's grandfather. And we're always told that a name has a great deal of meaning. So when it came to the name Shimshon, we know Shimshon was a giant that was strong. Nevuah, he had powers. So if we remember what Louis was like, Louis was 6'6", 197 pounds, shoulders as broad as a building, and the name Shimshon fit him to a T. He's getting this name at his Brit when he's 8 days old. How do they know that the name is applicable? For some reason, the name fit. And his first name, Eliezer, if we look at the name, we see that Eliezer, the first part of the name is for Hashem. The second part of the name is from the Shoresh, the root of the three letters of Lazor, to help. So the name put together is Hashem, to help. And I'm focusing mainly on the word help because once again, we have a name that is given to him as an infant, and it is so applicable in his life that it's amazing. Because if there was one thing that Louis was always known for, that was him always ready to help someone else, help a friend, keep track of him. The car breaks down, it's on the side of the road. He sees him, he knows him, he'll help him, he'll stop, he'll push the car over on the side. Somebody needs help painting, he'll help them with painting, he'll help them regardless of what the job is. If they come to him and ask for help, he's there. Everyone knew that. All of his friends knew that. My son was at the apartment where Louis had lived, and he got a chance to meet the other gentlemen that were in the apartment, and they said, now these are gentlemen that I never met. I'm merely going, my son told me, he said they had nothing but praise to say for Louis. If somebody needed help, Louis was there. And he was ready to help them, anything that he could do for them. Somebody needed a ride to the store. Someone needed to have something picked up, or they needed help with something, moving a piece of furniture. Louis would never say no. He always, always wanted to help. So we can see from this that somehow our parents have the strength when we're born. They give us names, and as our lives continue, they become so applicable to who we are, what we've done, where we've been. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Rabbi Sheldon Tannenbaum, Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik, and Rabbi Abramson, and Rabbi Yitzchak Miller, who I'm sorry he couldn't make it today, for all the help that they had given Louis. Louis was so appreciative. When I lived in Chicago, Louis and I would talk on the phone once a day. Then, when I made Aliyah 10 years ago, Louis and I stretched it out to talking to each other once a week. And everyone who knew Louis and knew me, the communities of Peterson Park, of Skokie, of West Rogers Park, Chicago, they were unbelievable. All of you were so helpful. You would keep an eye on Louis. If something happened, I'd get a phone call. Louis can use some help. Or everyone just seemed to have taken care of Louis. I was amazed at how many friends he had that were there for him. So I want to thank everyone for everything that they've done. This was a tragedy. It's moments that happen. It breaks my heart. It breaks everyone's heart. But we go on. So I want to thank everyone.
And can I thank Sam and Michal for making a trip all the way from New Jersey, because we couldn't be there, and there aren't even words to say how much it means to us to have Sam and Michal come and be there for us and taking care of things. And thank you to everyone who's been so kind to us at this time.
Okay, so maybe we'll ask Rabbi Abramson. Rabbi Abramson, maybe we'll share a few words. He was Louis was till he moved. He was a very faithful mispalel in Anshe Matala. He was.
Can you hear me? Kind words to the Jacobsons. Though today is Rosh Chodesh, if there was ever a person that we would consider elongating or speaking about his qualities, despite being Rosh Chodesh, it was Louis. Because not only did he represent what was right about life, but he also epitomized the ideals of Rosh Chodesh and of Yiddishkeit. We at the Anshe Matala family not only loved Louis as a member of our family, but he loved us back. And I also want to make special mention of Gary and Leela. I'm not sure if they're with us, but they were also part of his extended family for many, many years. But I remember, as everybody knows, Louis was not a person necessarily of many words. But amazingly, he had many friends at the Matala Shul. I remember he'd be sitting in the back, and he had a couple of friends. There was one person, he passed away since, a couple of ones who passed away, and he had also Moshe Hapsher, was one of his friends. And they would talk, and I don't know what they would be speaking about. I was speaking to Moshe Hapsher one time. I said, you and Louis are such good friends. What are you speaking about? And he said, well, he says, I always ask Louis about different types of firearms. He knew everyone very well. I said, Louis? He says, oh, yes. He knew this and he knew that, and he knew all about the IDF, and he knew about all of military. He knew everything. He was a walking encyclopedia for many, many years. And he had friendships with many people. Some of them we knew, some of them we didn't know. But we just loved him. And if I ever asked Louis, once in a while, we would be short for minyanim in the morning. And I would say, Louis, it's having a tough time. It's in the winter time, a lot of people in Florida. Sure enough, he came and he showed up. And he was always there whenever we needed him. If we needed something moved, he was there to help schlep, and he was as strong as anyone. And we heard of his tragic passing. It was such a shock to everybody, but especially given Louis was such a strong person, that clearly HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us that his time was up. So on this Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, when we're about to usher in the 3-week Shiva B'Tammuz at Tisha B'Av, we take note of the fact that we mourn not just for loss of the temple, not just for the loss of a building of brick and stone, but we mourn for the loss of human life. And Louis epitomized human life. Shetahei nafsho tzuror b'sor ha'chaim.
We're calling Rav Moshe Soloveitchik, who's kind enough to come here today.
Last few years, Louis davened in our shul. Okay. Okay. The last few years, Louis davened in our shul, but Louis never talked about himself. I remember one member of the shul told me that they were walking with Louis Shavuos. They were going to the Mishmer on Devon Avenue, and he asked Louis what was his name, his family name. Louis wouldn't answer. Louis was sort of like a very hidden personality. And in a sense, to those that saw him in shul, he was a little bit of a mystery. Louis, on one hand, whenever, as was mentioned, whenever help was needed, Louis was there. And I just have to add one point. You never had to ask Louis for help. Louis came and helped. He didn't even say, I'm going to help. Whether it was the setting up of the Kiddush or what it might be, he just went ahead and did it himself. And it's interesting, the Torah tells us, very, very famous Rashi, Vayetze Yaakov Mir Sheva Vayelech Harana Yitzias Tzaddik Osaroshem. When the tzaddik, someone who's righteous, leaves, it makes an impression. And the question is, why does the Torah say that only in regard to Yaakov? Why didn't the Torah tell it to us in regard to Avram? Avram also went from place to place. So why didn't we say, Vayetze Avram, Yitzias Tzaddik Osaroshem, that when Avram leaves, it makes an impression? Why didn't the Torah say, Vayetze Yitzchak? Mentions Vayetze Yitzchak, Vayetze Yitzchak Such Basada, but Rashi doesn't say there, Yitzias Tzaddik Osaroshem. Well, there is only for davening purposes. So why only by Yaakov? And I think the reason is, you have two types of tzaddikim. You have tzaddikim that everybody is aware, everybody sees, realizes at the time that he's doing it, what he means to them, what he's doing for them. But there are certain tzaddikim that in one form or another are Yoshev Olim. They're hidden. They're not the center of attention. So regarding them, we say, Vayetze Yaakov Yitzias Tzaddik Osaroshem. Yaakov was a Yoshev Olim. He was a hidden personality. Avram was not a hidden personality. Yaakov was a hidden personality. And when do you realize what you really lost? When you deal with hidden personalities, when the person is no longer there. A hidden personality is a hidden personality sometimes because he's taken for granted. Because he's always doing what is necessary. And he doesn't say, I'm doing this. He just goes ahead and does it. He fades into the scenery. But then, when he's no longer here, we realize who was here. And I think that Louis had a Yaakov personality. He was doing on behalf of everybody, but he was taken for granted because he never made a point. He never made a point of what he was doing. So that's Yitzias Tzaddik Osaroshem. Louis, he went to davening. He was always the first in the shul. I remember I would know when to go to shul mincha when I would see Louis passing by my house. He was, and always on schedule. Always on schedule. The kiddushim had to be set. No one asked Louis. Louis just went ahead and did it. He didn't even ask, can I help? He didn't emphasize what he did. He just did. And what we have to know is that we have to let his memory inspire us and to realize we know what Louis did, but now we're going to first really understand the extent of what he did for our community. It was Yitzias Tzaddik Osaroshem, Ti'inav Shotzar B'tzor HaChaim.
It's great, beautiful, thank you. Let's see. You know, we already had a bunch of speakers, so I won't speak long, and it's getting pretty hot out here. We have one casualty. First I want to take note that Marshall Castle and Mr. Saruya and his son are here from the Anshe Motala family, and several of the Mispalim from Ramosha's shul are here, and my personal connection with Lewis goes back a couple of decades, and it started, to my recollection, with Rabbi Abramson making the shidduch. Lewis was a pretty active member at the shul there, and Rabbi Abramson saw him struggling with some different things, and Rabbi Abramson made the shidduch between Lewis and the Ark, and it was a marriage made in heaven. I mean, it was a very good relationship. We liked working with Lewis. Lewis, as everyone knows, he wasn't easy to do stuff for. He would do anything for you, but he always had a hard time taking. It was much easier for him to give than to take. And like I said, really, Anshe Matala was truly this amazing, supportive family. Like Rabbi Abramson said, the Anshe Matala family, and it was and continues to be a family. When Lewis moved, he ended up davening closer to where he was living. For a while, he did schlep to Anshe Matala, but it was a pretty far trip. So he started davening closer to home by Rav Moshe Soloveitchik, who also became a family. And I have to say that Lewis's third family was the guys in the apartment there, who really were always an extended family, and I can't say enough good things. When Lewis we were looking for a place for him to live, I think I made the shidduch for him to get that spot there. And it was much more than a roof over his head. He really had a supportive group of friends and good people that were around him, that looked out after him. I would get calls from some of the roommates sometimes, I'm concerned Lewis isn't looking quite right. And I have to, can't say enough things about the Miller House Chevra. It really been wonderful. This week's parsha, we read Parshas Korach, and they say on Simchas Torah we say, they throw the kids up in the air and they say Moshe emes v'saraso emes, because they say that Korach, that's what he was saying when he went down into the hole. And he started up with Moshe, and then, as he realized his folly and the error that he made, he yelled, Moshe emes v'saraso emes. And it struck me just a weird thought today, is that, Lewis died. First, he died misas neshika. He died almost instantly without pain. And we're all in shock from this terrible, sudden, thing that nobody could have imagined in a million years. But, he died without pain, or presumably without much pain. And he was a guy that never gave people pain in his life. He was never insulted people, never hurt your feelings. And he, just like, Korach went down into the hole, Lewis hit a hole and went flying up. And, he was really a Moshe emes v'saraso emes. And so, nafsho tzor b'tzvor achayim. We should remember him only for good things. I'm going to ask Mechila if there's because I know there were things that we could have done, should have done, and it was just, he never asked for anything in his life. If you park your car on his foot, he wouldn't ask you to move the car. It was just, that was his nature. He didn't like to ruffle anybody or, ask anybody for anything. So there were, I'm sure, many things that we could have and should have done. We tried a little bit, but certainly we could have done a lot more, and we're going to miss you, Lewis. Okay. So maybe we'll cover,
For those of you who wish to place some earth on, you could use the cup right here.
Yeah.
And we're going to also ask the gentleman, while that's going on, to cover the grave in case of rains. Well, you can handle the cup then. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are streaming, what we're going to do is we're going to participate with the earth in the most respectful, covenant, and safe way as relates to the rules of the cemetery. For those of you who are here, you can come forward and just take 3 cupfuls of earth. I'm going to ask the gentleman to start the tractor to cover the grave, and the rabbi will conclude with the memorial prayers and Kaddish. Memorial contributions in Lewis's memory to the Ark. That information is on our website. For those of you who are streaming, for those of you who are here, it's on the service folder. In just a moment, after the services, after the Kaddish, we will be turning off the sound. And for those of you, again, that are streaming, the family appreciates you participating in this most sacred service.
Did they move the table?
Careful, but it was worth it. They finally got Okay, there's the Kaddish here. Oh, okay. One with the Kaddish. They don't do the Guru Kaddish, right?
Whatever, it doesn't make a difference.
Okay, so we'll do regular Kaddish. We'll end with, and I just want to thank everybody for being here. You know, it's lately first of all, I have to thank David, who twisted the world inside out to make this happen, and Chicago Jewish, wonderful as always. And you know, AJ, next time I'm in Israel, usually I come around Hanukkah time. I'd like to get together with you. We'll drink a l'chaim to Louis' memory, and we'll say, huh? Okay. Okay. Okay, Yiskada, Yiskada, Shmei Rabbah, Yamad Barach, Yerusei, Yamlich Malchusei, Bechai, Chom, B'yomechom, Bechai, Rechol Yisrael, Bagalov, Yisman, Kariv, Yimru, Amen.
Amen.
Shmei,
Shmei,
Rabbarach,
Rabbarach,
Olam, Mel,
Olam,
Maya,
Meo, Maya.
Yisbarach, Yishtabach, Yisbar, Yisram, Yisnase, Yisadar, Yisalev, Yisalaw, She made a good job, Brichel, Leilam, and Kal Berchasa, Vishirasa, Tushbachasa, Venechamasa, Damiram Bamba, Vimru, Amen. Yehei, Shlama Rabba, Min, Shemaya, V'chaim, Aleinu, V'alka, Yisrael, Vimru, Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom, V'ra, V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'alka, Yisrael, Vimru, Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the services. Stay safe.
Over Zoom or no?